This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Caroline Bargu. Brittany Greenslade is off tonight. It's a moment a Manitoba family has been waiting for. Remains found at the Prairie Green Landfill last month have now been identified as belonging to Morgan Harris. She's one of 4 Indigenous women killed by convicted serial killer Jeremy Skibicki. CBC's Alana Cole has that story and looks at why this search still isn't finished.
From Winnipeg to Ottawa.
And the police won't do anything.
The calls to search the Prairie Green landfill for Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron, victims of serial killer Jeremy Skibicki, never faded. On Friday, confirmation Harris's remains had been identified.
I hope Manitobans feel positive about the fact we were able to deliver to Morgan Harris's family the news that they wanted, that they are going to get their loved one back. But the job's not done. We have the Myron family that we also want to be able to move forward with their closure and their healing.
Human remains were discovered at the landfill February 26th, less than 3 months after the government started searching a targeted area. It's a search Winnipeg police said they wouldn't do, and one former Premier, Heather Stephenson, campaigned against. AMC Grand Chief Kyra Wilson stood with families demanding action. She thought of them Friday.
There was a lot of people that said that, this was not possible. And it was just awful having to hear that. And so I'm sad, but I'm also very happy that, some of the family, they do have that closure. I think, and I'll never speak for the families.
And I truly believe that Morgan really helped them throughout this whole process.
Elder Geraldine Shingus supported Harris's family.
I think this is a learning moment for governments to know that Indigenous women are important. They have daughters, they have cousins, they have sisters, their grandmothers. Nobody should have stayed in that landfill that long.
Grand Chief Wilson believes wider searches of landfills could uncover more remains. She questions the process Winnipeg police use to search for missing people. The province says other remains have been discovered at Prairie Green. There's no confirmation they belong to Mercedes Myron. The Premier says the search continues. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The Premier can't say when the other remains will be identified. He won't give details about how much of the designated area is left to search out of respect for families. The police service declined an interview with Winnipeg's new police chief until he has officially been sworn in. The identification of Harris's remains has vindicated families who pushed for the landfill search. As CBC's Bartlett Kivas reports, Manitoba's Progressive Conservative Party is still grappling with the decision it made when it was in power to refuse to search the landfill.
Honourable Speaker, our government erred. It's as simple as that.
An unconditional apology on Wednesday from the interim leader of Manitoba's opposition for a decision by Heather Stephenson's former PC government not to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 2 murdered First Nations women.
We went forward and followed advice to emphasize prosecution above all. We lost our way in regards to empathy and also lost our way in regards to closure being brought forward to the families of the victims.
Wayne Owasco apologized 1 week after a landfill search initiated by the NDP led to the discovery of 2 sets of human remains. One of the candidates running to be the next permanent PC leader has declined to call the Stephenson government refusal to search the landfill a mistake.
The decision that was made at the time was based on the information that was presented at that time.
Fort White MLA Abhi Khan still says the former PC government was right to prioritize the prosecution of serial killer Jeremy Skibicki over his victims' families' desire to recover the remains of their loved ones.
I think if you can now look in hindsight and say the information that's now available to us, what can be done would have favored a different response at that time. I think at that time, the advice was justice for the families is what needs to be done.
Khan's opponent, hotelier Wally Dowdrich, said he would have been all in on the landfill search, but would have sought private sector funding to pay for it.
What I was saying is what we should do is put some seed money to start a fund and then ask corporations to contribute to that fund so that we would have the money so that we actually have the emotional closure on that issue.
Dowdrich and Khan both agreed the PC's messaging and communications about the landfill search lacked empathy and compassion. CBC News reached out to former Premier Heather Stephenson, but did not hear back. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A rare moment of unity Monday in the legislature. MLAs of all parties agreed to a motion to demand bail reform after a young woman was killed by an alleged drunk driver who shouldn't have been on the road. We're joined by CBC's Ian Fraze, who is live in our newsroom. Ian, what brought the parties together?
It's really a call to action for the government, all parties agreeing unanimously that immediate and decisive action are needed to enhance bail enforcement with the help of the police. Now, this is the result of the death of Kelly Verwey, a Portage la Prairie woman who died in a car crash in January. And the driver connected with that crash has been charged with allegedly being impaired. He's also been wanted for arrest for violating his bail conditions. On Monday, PC MLA Jeff Bariza says repeat offenders cannot keep ignoring their bail conditions.
My promise to Kelly today, on her birthday, is that our PC team will work hard every day to make sure we say no to current revolving door bail systems in the province. And we will never accept the word can't when it comes to changing the way we deal with repeat offenders.
Now, the NDP government is limited in what it can do around bail reform. Changes to the criminal code is something left to the federal government. But the NDP in Manitoba has hired more police officers to deal with bail enforcement, and they've asked Crown attorneys to consider the impacts of letting someone out on bail and how that would impact the victims.
Ian, family of friends of Kelly Verwey were in the legislature today. What were they saying?
They were really thankful that the PC party was taking up their cause. Kelly's mom, Michelle, says that her daughter fought for what was right, and she would have wanted to stop repeat offenders.
The legacy of my daughter, as we heard in the House today, has been one of change. She's always been a fighter, right from the time she got here 29 years ago in a few minutes, that she didn't stand still for things that were incorrect or would maybe perhaps benefit the broader population if there was change or if there was movement forward. So doing this today on her birthday is absolutely a testament to not only the political will, but her will as a person to make her world better, to love her family in every way possible.
The 24-year-old accused in this crash faces numerous charges, including dangerous operation of a vehicle, impaired driving, and violating her bail conditions. Caroline.
That's CBC's Ian Fraze live in the newsroom. A new commission reviewing wrongful conviction cases will be based here in Winnipeg. It'll be called the Miscarriage of Justice Review Commission. David Milgaard spent 23 years behind bars for the rape and murder of a nursing student. He was eventually released and exonerated. He died in 2022 at the age of 69. A federal law paving the way for the commission is named after Milgaard and his mother Joyce, who never gave up her quest to prove her son's innocence. More recently, Brian Anderson and Alan Woodhouse were acquitted for the 1973 murder of a Winnipeg man. The independent body will replace the current process where the federal justice minister reviews each case. All right, it is now time to take a first look at weather with our weather specialist, Riley Lachuk. Riley, I have to say it was not very nice this morning when I left my house. Has it gone any better?
Just wait till you leave tonight, Caroline. Things are quite different than they were first thing this morning. So as expected, some snow rolling across southern Manitoba throughout the afternoon hours, a bit brighter and colder, quite frankly, into parts of northern Manitoba. Yes, we did see some of that rolling through the Winnipeg region, a few stray flurries even around the afternoon commute today, but the temperatures certainly have been the story of the day today. So here's what our temperatures look like at 6 o'clock in the morning. We actually got up to a high of 0 in Winnipeg, but as we've gotten throughout the day, that cold front has swept through, and you can see what that has done to our temperatures, now down to -10 in Winnipeg, -15 in Dauphin. So really quite a different story than it was first thing this morning. We get down to -17 in Winnipeg, a clearing sky overnight tonight. Mostly sunny, -16 in the morning, and Caroline, -5 by the afternoon hours. Tomorrow, it gets better from there. I'll go into details when I come back.
All right, well, at least it gets better.
Yes.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, a Brandon steel plant has been inundated with orders ahead of the looming U.S. tariffs. CBC News got a tour of the facility and will bring you that story after the break. The Canadian canola industry is under attack again from China. New Chinese tariffs are in response to the federal government's decision last October to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and a 25% levy on its aluminum and steel products. CBC's Zabina Ahmed has that story.
It's another blow to Manitoba farmers, this time coming from China. First, Trump's looming tariff threats, and now China has announced a 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil, peas and oil cakes.
Yeah, you kind of need a scorecard to keep up.
Warren Ellis is the chairperson of Manitoba Canola Growers Association. He says the Chinese tariffs will be hard on farmers.
The potential impact obviously is an extra cost that 6 months ago wasn't budgeted. So as far as farmers go, it comes right out of our bottom lines.
Alice says much of last year's harvest is still sitting in storage and they need to sell that before the new season. He says they need to live with this new risk.
When they say 100% tariff, I'm not sure that allows us to sell any canola to them. I don't know that, but my guess is that market's almost closed off to us.
Bruce Dalgano, a canola farmer in New Dale, Manitoba, says it's going to hurt.
I think there's lots of farmers who are going to be looking at their costs, input costs, because input costs on canola are the highest of any crop we've got. So as the price comes down, it becomes uncompetitive. I might as well grow wheat or barley or oats or something else to make a dollar.
Chris Davison is the president of the Canola Council of Canada. He says China is a highly valued market and the canola industry is big business for Canada.
The canola industry contributes about $43.5 billion annually in economic activity to Canada. That also includes about $16 billion in wages and some 206,000 jobs. So very significant indeed.
Davison says the tariffs are prohibitively high and they're looking to speak to both provincial and federal governments to address the situation. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Brandon steel manufacturer says clients want to keep their cash here in Canada. Looming tariffs in the United States means Balin Industries is seeing more domestic orders. CBC's Chelsea Kemp got inside the steel plant as it adjusts to the roller coaster of Trump's tariffs.
Balin Industries says in the last month, they've shipped over 100 loads of steel to the United States, an amount they would typically move over 4 months. Senior Vice President Sean Lepper says its Brandon plant has been racing to get their potato storage sheds over the border ahead of 25% tariffs.
We've been running 7 days a week trying to beat each new tariff date that comes into effect. And then we start all over the next day trying to beat the next tariff date.
President Donald Trump now says he's pausing tariffs on some Canadian goods until April 2nd. Lepper says if the sheds are slammed by cost increases, they'll stop production instantly. He says the sheds are Balin's only U.S. product. The company's focus on domestic sales and production is helping them ride out the escalating trade tensions. But the Canadian Labour Congress is warning tariffs are already causing fewer orders and layoffs in some Canadian industries.
We're already hearing about layoffs. We're already hearing about employers not getting the orders into their order books that they would normally have at this time of the year for manufacturing. And that's already having a chilling impact on many workers.
Brandon University professor of rural development Doug Ramsey says these threats could bring some Canadian manufacturers to a standstill. He says that means Canada has to diversify into other markets while also bolstering what's produced in Canada.
And whether it's pipelines or making sure you buy the steel product that's fabricated in Manitoba or Ontario, that's how we can strengthen our economy and then secure better trade deals with other regions.
At Balin, Lepper says they're seeing more new clients focused on buying Canadian.
End users asking and demanding that the product be Canadian, which is really uncommon for us. Most of the time it would come down to price, which we're always fighting for that price piece. Now it's less about price and more about where it's coming from.
Lepper says these new clients are helping keep business steady. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
A memorial in J.J. Harper's name was held at Stanley Knowles Park yesterday, nearly 37 years after his death. Harper was 37 years old when he was shot and killed by Winnipeg police near the park. Police were in the area looking for someone else when an officer confronted and shot Harper, who was unarmed and had not committed a crime. Both Harper's deaths and the 1971 murder of Helen Betty Osborne prompted Manitoba's Aboriginal Justice Inquiry. The Grand Chief of Manitoba, Kuwait-Nawi Okumakinak, spoke with of Harper's legacy.
I think that as a former leader and a spokesperson for his people in Wasagamak, I think that his voice still resonates because of what he stood for. He was an advocate for his people, a very powerful voice, and those are the things that we remember.
Grand Chief Garrison Sethi says Harper was a victim of racial profiling in the justice system, adding more work needs to be done. And if it isn't everybody's favorite weather specialist, Riley Lachuk.
So nice to have you here.
It's so nice to be here. And we're actually sitting next to each other. And the old studio was so far apart.
I know.
Yeah, now I can touch you. Look at that. What's coming up in weather? I see we've got some snow.
Yeah, there's a little bit of snow on the way. And actually, there's something that I'm keeping my eye on the horizon that could actually bring us a little bit more winter. I'll explain. Let's take a look at the upper level winds first. You've really probably noticed if you stepped outside today, that cold front that swept through southern Manitoba really chilled our temperatures down. That's all the result of this cold Arctic air that settled itself over the Hudson Bay coast. These pinks and these purple colors here representing temperatures close to -30 in some parts of the province. So we are looking at quite a considerable cool down as we get into the overnight hours. Certainly by the time we get into Tuesday morning, you'll notice the jet stream looks quite a bit different than it did last week as well. It sunk itself a little bit further south, and that's what's going to lead to a little bit more snow, a little bit more precipitation for us in southern Manitoba as we see that parade of systems that we've been seeing track across parts of northern Manitoba really moving across southern sections and really along the international border. So that snow that moved through today, that's now off into northwestern Ontario, maybe a couple centimeters in places like Kenora and Dryden overnight. We clear out and really cool down into Tuesday morning. So a mainly sunny start to the day. And then the next one starts to roll in as we get through later Wednesday. So by the afternoon hours, places like Brandon, Verdon, Melita getting a few flurries or some light snow. In the Red River Valley, this is more of an event as we get later into the evening and overnight into Wednesday morning. And then we're kind of stuck in this shifting pattern here of cloud cover, a little bit of sun, maybe a few more flurries into Thursday morning, and then something that I've been watching as we get later into the week. So snowfall totals, really not a lot, maybe a couple of centimeters here and there, really looking at really just a dusting of snow over the next couple of days, but coming in a few different rounds over the next several days as we get toward the weekend. Temperatures, though, do start to warm up as we get through the next couple of days. So certainly feeling more like winter first thing in the morning for your Tuesday. -16 in Winnipeg, -17s, -18s back to the west, and temperatures close even to -30 into northern Manitoba first thing tomorrow morning. So -5 tomorrow, a few flurries overnight into Wednesday. Up to +6 for Thursday, +8 for Friday. And then there's that system, Caroline, I've been watching as we get toward the weekend. The potential to bring us some accumulating rain and snow. And yes, the temperature falling to -12 by Saturday.
All right, thanks, Riley. We're going to have more to come after this break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Mark Carney is launching into his role as the Liberal Party's new leader after his landslide win. In the coming days, the former two-time central banker will replace Justin Trudeau as Canada's next Prime Minister. Ashley Burke looks at what it means for the party with a federal election on the horizon.
Mr. Carney, when will there be an election? Fresh off the heels of his landslide victory, Mark Carney on Parliament Hill to discuss what comes next.
The transition between the Prime Minister and myself, that transition will be seamless and it will be quick.
On day one as Liberal leader, Carney meeting with the Prime Minister, then his caucus.
I'm really happy today that a new era is starting.
I think the party is rejuvenated, re-energized.
Wayne Long, the first MP who publicly called on Justin Trudeau to resign, says he's now among the MPs Carney convinced to run again in the next election.
He said, look, you could be a part of my team. I would like you to reconsider offerings.
Carney's gearing up to send Canadians to the polls, trying to build on the momentum he saw last night after handedly winning the leadership race with almost 86% of the vote.
Donald Trump is trying to weaken our economy. But there's someone else who, if he succeeds, will weaken our economy. It's Pierre Poilievre.
Carney's never held public office before and is facing an uphill battle. The Conservatives are still leading in the polls, and Canada's in a trade war. Trudeau's former principal secretary helped with Carney's campaign.
I think the country could use an election, frankly. I think the country could use a government with a strong mandate to negotiate with Donald Trump.
Liberals say they're ready to jump into a quick election.
We have signs in storage and they're always ready, and the volunteers in our riding have been working hard for the last number of years.
I am ready for an election in Beaches East York, and I think we got a fair fighting chance.
The Conservatives already taking aim at Carney, attacks that are expected to ramp up.
I think the Conservatives are resorting to the kind of dirty personal politics that Mr. Poilievre has been known for since he was in cabinet with Stephen Harper.
Mark Carney has named former cabinet minister Marco Mendicino as his chief of staff for his transition. Carney is expected to take office and swear in his cabinet this week. Then sources say he's aiming to trigger an election before Parliament was set to resume at the end of the month, with a vote in late April or early May. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
A cargo ship has collided with a tanker carrying jet fuel for the U.S. military off the coast of eastern England. It caused both vessels to catch fire and triggered multiple explosions on board. Miraculously, authorities say all 37 crew members from the two ships were safe and accounted for, with one hospitalized. The oil tanker was at anchor near the port of Grimsby when the cargo vessel struck it. It ruptured the side and sent fuel pouring into the North Sea. The fiery collision triggered a major rescue operation by lifeboats, Coast Guard aircraft, and commercial vessels. The cause of the crash is being investigated. There's also concern about the environmental impact from the spill. A ski gondola loaded with passengers has fallen to the ground at the Kicking Horse Mountain Resort in southeastern BC. Safety officials say only minor injuries have been reported. An eyewitness who captured this video says the cabin fell about 3 meters moments after departing up the hill. There's no word yet on how many passengers were inside when it crashed. According to the resort's website, a fully loaded gondola cabin holds 8 people. The resort has closed for the day and the gondola ride is cancelled until further notice. A Go Public investigation has found more Canadians are being targeted in a gift card scam. Scammers drain the money before shoppers who pay for the card are able to use it. Ethel Musa shows how thieves are doing it and how to avoid getting ripped off.
The cashier, Joan Owens bought this $50 Lululemon gift card for her sister-in-law last October. But when it came time to use it, she says it was completely empty.
I was surprised. I said, the receipt is there. It says it's activated.
Owens' gift card, purchased at this Shoppers Drug Mart, was likely drained of funds by fraudsters. One way they do this is by stealing gift cards from a store, obtaining the account information on the back and resealing the cards in their original packaging before placing them back in the store for unsuspecting customers to purchase.
And once you activate it, they have the ability to go in and drain the funds from that card.
The $50 gift card.
Martin Paquette knows all about it. The $50 Sephora gift card he bought his daughter at Walmart also turned out to have no money on it when she went to use it.
My daughter was embarrassed, to say the least.
Gift card scams are also a widespread problem in the United States, where law enforcement officials have linked some of that activity to Chinese organized crime groups, who they say are also stealing from Canadians.
They're taking the money to then convert it into goods. Primarily, those goods are going to be high dollar, luxury items. Apple product in particular is highly sought after.
The RCMP says it's sharing information with local, national, and international law enforcement partners to combat fraud. Martin Paquette says he's learned his lesson.
If we ever buy gift cards again, we will definitely go to the store that is issuing the gift card.
Joan, on the other hand,
I stay away from gift cards now.
After Go Public contacted Walmart Canada and Shoppers Drug Mart, they said they compensated Martin and Joan for their lost funds. Both companies say they train their employees to spot the telltale signs of gift card tampering. But consumers should also pay close attention to avoid the unintended gift of fraud. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Primary health care in Canada is in crisis. According to Health Canada, the country needs 23,000 family physicians, and recruitment and retention is tough, especially in small towns and cities. But that's also where at least one Canadian city is finding its edge. CBC's Jennifer Norwell has that story.
From bustling Pretoria, South Africa, across the world to Williams Lake, BC. That was the big move Dr. Jacques and Mariska Newhoff made 5 years ago, along with their 2 young kids.
We came into a home with a stocked fridge and a pantry from the community that put it there for us.
Williams Lake is about 7 hours north of Vancouver, with a population of 11,000. The community greeted them with a warm welcome.
So those small things, it's small things from someone else's perspective, but a massive impact that it had on us.
Part of that welcome was formalized when the city of Williams Lake developed a program to recruit doctors to the community and the nearby municipality of 100 Mile House. It runs off of $176,000 of core funding from the local hospital board, and as it grows, is also generating revenue of its own. Last year, the BC Interior had 75,000 people waiting to connect with a family practice. Melissa Lapointe runs the program as the Healthcare Landing Director. She arranges housing, transportation, daycare suggestions, employment opportunity for spouses, all that, and the little things.
We're going to leave a little basket of toys as a surprise on the kids' beds whenever they arrive. It's taking the time to ask about food sensitivities. We've gone as far as leaving a beer mug in the freezer for them.
Lapointe says they make social connections too, meeting up for coffee or a hike. She says it's the magic of the program.
We build relationships, and I will go as far as saying we've built a lot of friendships in the process.
Williams Lake says the program has been making a difference in healthcare there, and similar ideas have been tried successfully in other rural BC communities. Since 2023, 15 doctors have been recruited to work in Williams Lake. The Newhoffs encourage doctors to choose medicine in rural BC.
Seeing our kids and the opportunities that they have here, seeing how we have developed and what our opportunities are, it's amazing.
A small step that could go a long way to easing the healthcare crisis. Jennifer Norwell, CBC News, Kamloops.
It's Commonwealth Day in Britain, and this year's celebrations included nods to Canada from King Charles and other top royals. Until now, British officials have not spoken in defense of Canada's sovereignty, despite threats of annexation by U.S. President Donald Trump. But as Chris Brown reports, as royals gathered for the annual event at Westminster Abbey, the message was clear.
On a day to celebrate the Commonwealth, King Charles and other top royals came to Westminster Abbey with a message of solidarity. In these uncertain times, he said in a statement, where it's all too easy to believe our differences are problems, the Commonwealth's remarkable collection of nations and peoples come together in the spirit of support. For Canada, support is the key word.
We are a family. That's not.
The Secretary General of the organization told us Canada will remain a stalwart, sovereign country despite the bluster of U.S. President Trump.
What I think it does is to make us even more determined to stand with all of our friends.
Of late, the king has taken on the role of a figure of reassurance, meeting with Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky after he was berated by Donald Trump, and also seeing Justin Trudeau. British media suggest the friction between Canada and the United States is very much on his mind.
There have been some subtle but notable signs of support from the royals. The king has been out in public wearing his Canadian medals. And Catherine, the Princess of Wales, wore red with a white necklace.
Nothing happens by accident with the royal family. The princess was absolutely resplendent in red today.
Canada's High Commissioner to the UK says allies are lining up behind Canada.
In this world, we all have to fight our own battles in organizations like the Commonwealth and many other multilateral organizations. Canada's reputation is strong.
With 56 countries and vast inequality, the Commonwealth is beset with questions about its usefulness. But boosters say there's room to improve trade links in new markets, which Canada needs. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Still ahead, why one city councillor wants to phase out a policy he says is hurting sewer and water services in the city. More on that straight ahead. A Winnipeg City Councillor wants to remove a policy he says is hurting our sewer and water services. Not all the money paid towards water and waste goes to improving and maintaining those services. The councillor would like to see it go toward large projects that need to be completed. CBC's Mark Arsenault has the story.
In Monday's Water and Waste Committee meeting, City Councillor Brian Mays put forward a motion to phase out a dividend that comes off your water bill.
We take about $40 million a year out of water and sewer revenue and move it over to the general revenue side, and we gotta stop doing that.
Currently, 11% of your water bill is taken through dividend and funneled into the city's general revenue. Mays proposed the city phase out the dividend over a 10-year period. More than $400 million have been taken from water and sewer reserves through dividends over the past 15 years. Mays says the city needs that money for big water and waste projects, and it's hard to get other streams of funding when we're diverting money.
The provincial response to our asking for money, which has been, what are you talking about? You guys have taken $400 million out of water and sewer revenues and moved it over to keep your property taxes down.
Chair of the Water, Waste and Environment Committee, Councillor Ross Eady, voted in favour of the motion. He says the multi-year budget has water rates projected to go up, and the dividend could get out of control.
If we went ahead with the rates as they were talking about, the dividend could hit $70 million by 27. And we don't need that money, so why take it from the bill payers?
Mays says when Mayor Scott Gillingham was finance chair, he started to phase out the dividend, but COVID stopped that process, and he wants to restart it.
I mean, it's all one taxpayer, but at least this is a little more straightforward on the sewer. The money we collect on your sewer rates, that's going to go to sewer projects as it's supposed to.
The motion was passed at the committee meeting. If the Executive Policy Committee approves, it will go to council at the end of the month. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
My favorite part of the show,
okay,
when CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins, and he's going to have the dog walking report. I have to tell you,
okay,
I had to put pants on my dog like this past week because it's been so messy, but today I didn't need it because it was frozen again.
Well, most people have been putting coats and booties on their dogs. It's been so cold, but you've got the pants. So one up. One up on everyone. You might need the next couple of mornings at least, the booties and the sweater again tomorrow morning. Not so much because of the mess, but because of the cold temperatures that we're looking at. Gus is ready for a walk in the cold weather, in the snowy weather. Thanks, Dennis, for sending this picture in. Please keep sending your dogs to talkback at cbc.ca. Want to see them all, especially if you're getting out and enjoying some of the longer evenings that we're looking at. So we're looking at minus 16 first thing in the morning, certainly feeling a little more winter-like tomorrow morning. Minus 5 by the afternoon. I think this icon maybe is overdoing the cloud cover a little bit, but certainly as we get into the afternoon, we'll look at that cloud cover building back in with that chance of flurries as we get into the evening hours tomorrow. Winds out of the southwest, not as windy as it was today, but you might get a bit of a breeze out there as we get through the next couple of days. So our jet stream considerably further south than it was last week, really right along the international border right now. That's allowing some of this cold Arctic air to really funnel right into Manitoba and Saskatchewan, giving us some of the coldest temperatures in the country. And this just kind of sits and rotates around. Certainly for the next couple of days, the Hudson Bay coast in particular, looking at some very cold conditions into far northern Manitoba as well. I'll have that coming up in your regional forecast in just a minute here. As we get through Friday, we do start to see those temperatures surging. We get back onto the warm side of the jet stream here in the Red River Valley, but then we start to see a ridge forming in the jet stream once again. This is going to allow temperatures to fall below seasonal once again as we get toward the weekend. So overnight temperatures look like this, closer to minus 20 in the west, minus 18 in Brandon, minus 19 in Dauphin, some minus 20s in Gimli and Peguis and into northwestern Ontario, where we're looking at maybe a few flurries yet to come through the evening tonight. And yes, some minus 30s on the map for Lynn Lake overnight, minus 26 into Dooley Lake. Sunny start tomorrow. We'll keep the sunshine through northern Manitoba, and that's going to keep temperatures cooler than seasonal for this time of the year. So by the time we get to the afternoon, minus 10 in Grand Rapids, minus 14 in Norway House. Cloud starts to build in the west first thing in the morning. We'll start to see that filling in as we get into the afternoon hours. By the time we get to late afternoon, I think we're back into a mainly cloudy sky in Winnipeg, like today with some slivers of sunshine. Minus 9 into Kenora through the afternoon, minus 4 into Brandon, and Caroline, there's that snow I was talking about making its way into Westman.
You always know how to ruin my day. Just kidding. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
It seems everyone can't stop talking about U.S. President Donald Trump. Ask any adult about him and they'll probably talk your ear off. Turns out kids are no different. Tara Law is a grade 8 social studies and English teacher at École George McDowell. She spoke with Information Radio's Marcy Marcusa this morning about how the kids are talking about Trump, his tariffs, and the annexation threats.
There's not a lot of fear or anxiety like I think that a lot of adults have. But they do recognize the ridiculousness of his actions and how they get the idea that, like, why would you purposefully hurt your best friend and ally?
I know
right?
that, I mean, even for when we talk about trying to make sense of this and trying to explain, to learn more and to give context to the conversations, even for adults at CBC, obviously we're putting out stories that are, titled things like, could Trump actually annex Canada? Like, what is the history of that? What is actual fear? What is rhetoric? Like, are the kids talking about the annexation threat at all?
They're honestly not. They mostly look at his speeches where he is making these elaborate promises and that sort of thing. But in terms of annexation, I don't see them taking that seriously. They see him as a joke mostly. And so I think that they don't understand the severity of some of his statements and exactly what that could mean. They don't grasp the idea that could actually happen, I don't think. So when we brought it up, they were just like, oh, he's just ridiculous, like that'll never happen. So in a way, it's nice that they're not having those anxieties, because I know that personally as an educator and a mom and an adult, I'm looking at that and kind of going, ooh, like, I hope that doesn't happen. They're having a hard time connecting with it, I think, because they're not Americans and we're Canadians. So there's that separation.
How much do you fear? Because as you said, they're sort of staying at the top level of, in your words, I think you said they're thinking Trump is, I'm going to soften this a bit, but, just foolish and, not to be taken seriously is what they're thinking. How much could this be a concern that maybe, young people will simply be now more anti-American, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, looking at, are we becoming more patriotic or more anti-American? I would say that with the kids, they're definitely more anti-American than grabbing onto their Canadian flags right now. There's a lot of, they ask me, well, like, Madame, how do we support Canadian more, right? Which I guess is patriotic, but it was more like, to get back at the Americans, right? Like, how do we not support America? So that's kind of where they were coming from with that. And just the complete disbelief. They're like, how could they vote somebody like him in? And how could they be so stupid is kind of their thing. And then me having to explain, well, there were a lot of promises made that attracted a lot of people, right?
As an educator, how do you navigate these discussions right now? Especially when I'm thinking about the changing makeup of our classrooms as well. I mean, you're going to have people that come from, potentially you're going to have students that are coming from their own lived experience in other countries, or the political situations have long been different, or the challenges, or maybe they've even had to flee country for political reasons. So the lenses on all of these things will be different. And then, as you said, some of the other discussions are going to have, very literal personal heart in the game. What's it like as an educator to try to navigate all of this with your students?
I think that it's just really important for us to focus on the facts, and to also give grace with the students and understand that if kids are getting really passionate about stuff or saying things that might seem disrespectful, that you're taking into account those lived experiences and not just jumping on them. And then also just, I personally make sure that my class is a safe space. So if kids are feeling uncomfortable, if I'm bringing up past feelings that they don't want to talk about, I'm obviously giving them ways to leave the classroom, go take a walk, come and chat with me afterwards and debrief if they need to. But those are all very, very real things as educators that we're navigating every day. Like in my classroom, I've got, just in my homeroom alone, I've got 6 kids that are observing Ramadan right now. And when we've talked about Israel and Palestine stuff, I mean, they have family there. And so you have to just deal with it with a lot of empathy and not assume that kids are saying things to be nasty or to get a reaction or shock value, that some of it is actually coming from a place of just really big feelings.
Boxman Turner Overdrive is coming back to Winnipeg. The band will make a stop here at the Canada Life Centre on April 19th on their Back in Overdrive tour. The tour kicks off in Victoria on April 1st and will play 22 cities across Canada. You're watching CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, well, we are looking at a sunny start, at least, to your Tuesday, but those clouds fill in as we get into the afternoon hours. And yes, do expect through the Red River Valley a few flurries through the evening hours, through the late afternoon into Westman. Winds out of the southwest tomorrow, so that wind won't have as much of a bite. but the sunset at 7:27 tomorrow evening, so getting closer to 7:30. So +3 on the way for Wednesday, +6 for Thursday with a bit of clearing, and then the cloud builds back into Friday, and there's that system I was talking about earlier that I'm watching for in time for the weekend. The potential at least to bring us some accumulating rain or snow as we get through Saturday into Sunday, along with some very windy conditions. Well, Manitobans are taking advantage of the end of winter to indulge in a favorite winter activity one last time, cross-country skiing, Caroline.
And on Sunday, a crowd gathered at Windsor Park Nordic Centre for a cross-country ski race in their pajamas. Here's your daily lift.
We call it the pajama sprints, and as you can see with the skiers, they're all wearing pajama pants. So they're doing cross-country ski sprint racing today.
I'm doing it with all my friends, and it's just because I love skiing, and it's just here to have fun with everyone and meet new people.
Last year was heartbreaking because there wasn't really enough snow to ski. So this year we have just enough. It's been pretty thin, but we have enough to ski, to get out and ski and to race. We did some snowmaking at the start of the year, which helped create a good base for these days where it's starting to melt away.
We've had tons of different groups this year and tons of regulars always that have come out, and we even had nights where we had 300 people and days where we had 500 people that came through the Nordic Centre. We have a man-made trail, and that man-made trail has about a foot of base underneath it. But certainly as we get going or continue in the season, we're going to be closing different parts of the park that don't have that man-made snow, and then our man-made loop will hopefully be open until the end of March.
Who doesn't love a pajama party?
Yeah, definitely love a pajama party. I don't know that I'd like to ski in my
I don't
pajamas.
know. Might be kind of freeing.
Maybe too freeing. That is it for us. Brittany will be back tomorrow with Riley. Have a good evening.
See you tomorrow.
See you.